Welcome to the Be Bold podcast. I'm Beth Whitman. Today's guest is Carol Odera. She's someone you probably haven't heard of, but in my book, she is moving mountains and doing things to change a community, well, likely more than one community, in Kenya. Carol is a 2017 Mandela Washington Fellow. This is a program started by former Presidents Nelson Mandela and Barack Obama, and it recognizes young African leaders between the ages of 25 and 35. As part of the program, Carol spent her summer at Rutgers University in New Jersey, and that was before she stopped here in Seattle on her way home to Kenya, and that's where she is now. Carol holds an MBA in strategic management and a bachelor's degree in business administration. But these accomplishments barely scratch the surface of what she's trying to accomplish at home. There, she's trying to change a culture. In her community near Lake Victoria in Kenya, she's educating the women and encouraging them to find sustainable ways of living through a variety of resources beyond selling fish. And that's pretty much what they've known all their lives. As you might imagine, it's no easy task to change the ways of a culture, and we talk about the difficulties that she encounters. Carol really takes us into what it's like to be part of her culture, from the expectations of her being a firstborn child to how her community thinks of her as an educated woman who has also spent time outside of Kenya. But she relates well to these women given that she herself grew up in a slum and watched how her mother relied on selling fish to feed the family. So now in turn, she's helping women who do the same. Before we get into our conversation, I want to remind you that I just launched the Be Bold podcast website, which is where you'll now find all the Be Bold episodes. It's easy enough to find at beboldpodcast.com. You'll find not only this episode, but also all of the back episodes as well. I'm working on a gear page where you'll be able to find and order bracelets, bags, and hats emblazoned with Be Bold. If you're new to the podcast, this is where I feature conversations with women who share their inspirational stories. These are truly amazing women forging their own path to success in a variety of fields that includes travel, adventure, sports, music, philanthropy, spirituality, and more. If you like what you hear, please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast in Apple Podcasts. That's what most people know as iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play, and leave a review. And that literally takes just a couple of minutes. Those reviews are not so much from me so I can read a lot of nice platitudes, but those reviews tell your podcast provider to deliver up that podcast to more people, and it helps people know a bit more about what they're about to listen to or subscribe to. So with that, let's get on with today's conversation with Carol Odera.
Oh, what did I have for breakfast? I had some vegetables and then an egg and the bread, toasted bread. It was a quick breakfast because I had to rush for a meeting.
Oh, okay. So what's a traditional breakfast in Kenya?
Tea, of course, Kenyan tea. And then we do like a dough. Yeah. Usually we call them mandazi, you know.
Mandazi.
Yeah, it's a deep fried dough.
That sounds good, like a donut.
Yeah, like a donut. And then, or usually maybe chapatis, so something like tortillas, the Indian.
Yeah, of course, chapati.
Yeah, tortillas. Or you can do, so it depends. So in Kenya we have different tribes, so it depends on. So like my tribe, we do mandazis and we can still do vegetables, mixed vegetables. Or some people really prefer to have heavy breakfast, so you get into lunch as breakfast and then.
You mean you have so you're having something that's a little bit heavier and so more savory.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah.
Do you have it still at the same time in the morning, 8 o'clock?
Yeah, same time in the morning.
But still, it's just more like a lunch.
More like a lunch, yeah.
And then what do you have for lunch?
So we have really heavy meals. It's not more of snacking like here, you know. So it's ugali, you know, like corn flour. It's a heavy meal with some stew or something fried. It has to be a protein and some vegetables and the ugali, which is the starch.
Right. And then dinner.
And then dinner as well.
And then you're not snacking. You have this. Do you have for dinner? Do you have pretty much the same thing that you
pretty
have
much
for
the
lunch?
Same thing for lunch. So nothing like dessert for, I mean, it depends also on the class where you come from. The higher class sort of have their own ways of eating. They would do a dessert. But most people averagely will do 3 meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and that's it.
And they're not snacking like we are, like
No,
you've noticed.
No.
Yeah. You've spent quite a bit of time here in the States, right? You spent, was it a year that you were initially here, about 7 years ago? Okay.
Yes. So 7 years ago, that was 2010. I was here for about 6 months for a program, an environmental restoration program. It's also a leadership program, but with more focus on environmental restoration. So that was with Earth Corps International.
Earth Corps, yeah.
Yeah, Earth Corps International for 6 months. And then after that, I got an internship in the East Coast with an organization that does environmental education with schools. So that was Ferry Beach Ecology School. So kind of connected, but a different angle of doing environmental leadership.
Before you had come on that trip, had you been outside of Africa?
Just once. I remember I was so US kind of, I'm a US person in terms of trips. So this was my third time actually to be in the US. The first time I got here was, I think, 2009, a year before I came here for the second time. But that was for a conference for 3 weeks at the UN in New York.
Oh, nice.
That was on, sustainable development.
I want to talk about those details, but right now I'm so interested in just like knowing the tremendous... and I'm just projecting here the tremendous amount of culture shock coming here, probably for that first time when you were here for 3 weeks, but then also when you're, immersed in the culture for a year. What was that like for you?
Wow. First of all, I came in when winter was just getting over.
Was that in Seattle?
That was, yes. Okay. That was in February.
So it was dark days.
I know. It was cold, really cold. And I didn't even imagine getting that much. I mean, so my first time I got here, I remember my homestay family taking me to get warm stuff.
Yeah. I bet.
And then one first culture shock is like the husband took me out for shopping, which is not usually the case.
Ah, right.
It is a very rare circumstance.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that was fun. I got cold most of the times, but I kind of get used to it. And then the rains in Seattle.
And it just keeps raining.
It kept raining in Seattle, so I had to get an umbrella. But then walking around, I don't see people with umbrellas.
I mean,
people are, Then I dropped my umbrellas and I could just get my raincoat.
And you just put your hood, just put a hoodie on. I know it is. Yes. It is funny that we're so rainy, and I think I don't know if this is a true statistic or not, but they say that Seattleites buy more sunglasses than like in any other city, and I just because it's crazy because we don't have
you don't have that much sun,
right? Although global warming that's changing. But I've always thought, I've heard that for years, and I've always thought it's just because we lose them all the time.
Yeah, true.
Because you're like, where did I put it from 6 months ago? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, great. So that was a big culture shock for you, but it must have.
It was, as well as food.
I was going to say the food thing. Grocery stores.
I know.
Aren't grocery stores crazy?
Yeah, very crazy.
Have you gotten used to walking into a big Safeway or QFC?
I've been to Whole Foods, QFC, all those. I'm kind of get used to it now, but then first of all, it was a shock for me. First of all, to see all this big size of food.
Have you been to a Costco?
Yeah, I remember just once.
Yeah,
just once.
Yeah, I know. Whenever I come back from a trip, I if I've been away for a while and then I come back and I walk into a store, I'm actually horrified because I think, do we really need an entire row of potato chips and soda? And it's crazy. Good. Anyway, so you're here this particular trip in Seattle. You were at Rutgers in New Jersey for a bit. What were you doing there?
So I got into this program. I got lucky to be selected in this program called the Mandela Washington Fellowship program, which is flagship program of Young African Leaders Initiative that was started by former President Obama and the late Nelson Mandela. So the idea was to invest in young African leaders from the sub-Saharan Africa who are doing positive, bringing positive changes in their community in matters of community development, transparency and accountability in government systems and things like that. So it was started in 2014 and it's been running for those years now. The idea is, so people apply for it to get selected into the program.
How many people apply? Do you
Oh,
know?
well, for my year, actually, I was applying for the third time
my goodness.
Yes, to get into the program. And for this year, they told us they received the highest number ever. So they got like over 65,000 applications.
65,000?
Yes.
My goodness.
Yes, and they only needed 1,000 people. Yeah.
So you're pretty lucky to...
I was so lucky. I was so lucky to get into it finally.
Do you think a lot of those people apply year after year like you did?
I think so.
Uh-huh.
I think so because it helps you to sharpen, learn. If you fail, you learn from what you didn't do. And then most fellows, when they go back, they kind of hold, meetings with people who are interested in applying. So they kind of, show them the tips of how to improve the application processes. Yeah. So you get into the program, and then you, how the program is designed is that fellows get attached to different universities, placed into different universities in the US. And the program has 3 tracks, which is business and entrepreneurship, and there is civic and leadership, and there is public management as well. I was in business and entrepreneurship because of the work that I do, as well as my profession, because I studied business management in school. Mm-hmm. And that's how I landed into Rutgers for 6 weeks.
And there were other people as part of that program who were at other universities around the country?
Yes, of course. Okay. Across the countries. I remember Kansas State University, the Ohio State University. Universities also get to apply to host fellows in this program. Yeah.
How did you like Rutgers?
I really loved it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And New Jersey?
New Jersey is quite nice.
Yeah. I'm from New Jersey.
Oh, really? Yeah, I loved it so much. It was kind of chilled.
And you thought
different people as well. Yeah.
Kind of chilled compared to...
New York.
Oh, well, compared to New York.
I know.
Yeah. Not compared to Seattle.
Nah, I know.
Yeah. I was going to say that.
In terms of diversity, is also pretty much,
Oh, because there's more diversity there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And more so than Seattle also, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good. And what was it that you were actually studying when you were at Rutgers? Like, what did a typical day look like for you?
So our curriculum was designed around issues of sustainability.
Would you have daily classes?
Yes, we had classes. We had classes, a mix of classes and field visits. And they also had a couple of speakers and experts coming to speak to us. So it was a good mix. We would go to class, I think from morning, half day, and the rest of the afternoon was maybe free for you to network with people, or it's either a field visit. Yeah.
And so this wasn't mixed in with the other students at Rutgers?
No.
So it was a special program.
It was a summer program. So when we got there, I think most of the students were not yet in. Mm-hmm. So we spent most of the time, we were just the fellows. Yeah.
And how many of you were at Rutgers?
We were 50. So 25 for business and entrepreneurship track, and then the rest were on civic and leadership.
And they were from around sub-Saharan
different
Africa.
Countries.
Oh, that's great.
Different countries. Yeah.
I bet that was interesting.
It was interesting to meet. It gives you a chance to meet people from other countries as well.
Right.
Yeah.
That's neat.
It brings the continent closer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great thing.
Yeah, sure.
So you get this fellowship. You spent your time at Rutgers, and then you were 6 weeks there?
I was 6 weeks there, and then so it's a 6 weeks academic coursework, and then you all go to DC for the presidential summit. So yeah, it's a transition of things happening. So when the selection is done, you meet at your embassies in your respective countries, and all the fellows, and then you come to the US, and then you all go to different universities, you meet different people, and then after that you all meet again in DC for a presidential summit. Then so that's where you meet with all these leaders, global leaders, investors, and it's just sort of getting their mind, but also networking as well.
And is there in that networking, is there hope that they might fund something that you're doing?
Yeah, well, it depends, because before you get into the program, you actually shown how to do networking. You learn networking skills, and as well as during your academic coursework in your different universities, you learn how to do, business pitching and stuff like that.
No kidding.
Yeah, so when you go into the summit, it's upon you to use your skills to get someone to invest in you. Yeah. So, wow. I mean, it's hard because, there could be this investor that many people are eyeing, because it's 1,000 of you people, and and maybe 50 of you need to speak to one person.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to be smart.
Right.
Smart enough to speak something, do a pitch, and get
Right.
someone's attention.
So you go to the summit, and then, but you've been here for 12 weeks.
Yeah, so...
And what happened after the summit?
After this, so the program has two parts. So there's a fellowship program that you go through the academic, the 6 weeks academic coursework, and then there's the second part of it that is the professional development experience. All these you get to apply for when you're doing your fellowship application initially. So the second one is optional, the professional development experience, but people still also do apply for it. Yeah, so people apply for it and they also select you. So what that means is, if you are successful, they try to match you with organizations that tend to do the same things that you're doing. So it's more of, it's your focus area. Yeah. So then I was lucky to get the professional development experience.
Where did you?
I was in Philadelphia, and I got attached to the Women's Campaign International organization.
The Women's
Campaign.
Okay. Oh, the Women's Campaign International. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And so that organization was founded by former Congresswoman for Pennsylvania, Marjorie Margolis. And during that time, she was part of the delegation that she led the U.S. delegation to the Women in Beijing conference.
My goodness.
Yes. So as a result, she founded Women's Campaign International with the aim of, getting women into, political leadership positions.
And so then you were at that office
I
for
was at
5
that
or
office
6 weeks
for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And it was a good chance, right? A really good experience to learn how they do their work and networks and things like that.
And now when you go home, which is tomorrow.
Yes.
So I'm so fortunate. And I'll tell listeners too, the amazing thing about this is that I had a friend text me like 2 nights ago and say, hey, I just spent time with this amazing woman, Carol, and you've got to meet her. And we both kind of scrambled to put this together, because you're leaving in the morning to go back home to Africa, which is just fantastic. So thank you. Back to Kenya. So thanks for making this happen. So when you go back, what will happen? Like, you'll take that information and kind of the skills that you learned, and then how will you apply that to what you're doing there?
So when I go back home, I have to go back and build my organization, so I run an organization for women economic empowerment. It's called Women in Sustainable Enterprises. So I'm going back with a full, I feel like I am fully fledged to go back and do a lot of things that I've learned, and also just to keep in touch with my networks and make sure that the organization grows, because this program was funded by the US government. So someone is really investing in you as a leader, and then, to whom much is given, a lot will be required. So you go back and you need to have a plan of what you're actually going to work on to make sure that you're creating the impact that is, that you needed to do.
So tell us about WISE.
WISE.
And when you started that and what that program is all about.
So WISE stands for Women in Sustainable Enterprises. So I started this organization 3 years ago. And that was as a result of my experience working or volunteering with different environmental organizations. Because you remember I told you my second time into the US was working. I came through for EarthCorp program, which is an environmental organization. So that found me when I was volunteering in an environmental organization. Even though I studied business, but my interest was in environment stuff. That kind of gave me a platform to learn and to observe, how people interacted with the environment. And then throughout those years, I could observe how women interacted with the environment, especially in terms of getting their livelihoods daily. Yeah. I come from Kisumu, which is the 3rd largest city in Kenya. And that is the city where we have Lake Victoria. And having worked around the lake region and interacting with the women, I could see how they either get fish from the fishermen to sell. Yeah. I could see how they get into the wetlands and harvest the papyrus to make crafts, draw water. So they were basically using the natural resources to earn a living. Yes.
And is that a good thing, or is that
good
it's
and
depleting
bad?
The resources?
It is good and bad if someone is not showing them how to use the resources sustainably. Yes. So I was like, how do I use my business skills that I've learned in school to kind of help these women to have livelihoods that are sustainable, because fish is not going to be here forever. We have all these issues of climate change and pollution, and people are also overfishing. So fish actually right now it's declining in the lake. Yeah. So
how do you teach the women this when it's the men who are doing the fishing?
yes, so women are not culturally allowed to do fishing, so they depend on fishermen to get fish. My main mission the reason why I founded WISE is to help create alternative sustainable livelihoods that the women can do. So it's not about you have to depend on fish. It's not a do and die. Like you can't just depend on one source of income. What if it's not there? Can't you find an alternative source of livelihood that is sustainable? Or it doesn't mean that you have to just get fish from the lake, but can we have fish farms outside the lake and then make it a sustainable livelihood source? Yeah. So WISE aims at providing those alternative sources of livelihood that most people around the lake region don't see, or someone doesn't give them a chance to know of. Yeah. So WISE works with women who are really grassroots. These are women who they didn't go to school, or they either dropped out of school, and mostly it's a mix of young girls, women who are elderly and middle-aged as well, and most are probably married. And then so the only thing you can do is either to go get fish from the fishermen and sell, right, or go into the wetlands, harvest papyrus and make mats, or just get into small businesses, sell kerosene or sell vegetables. They're just fumbling with businesses.
Right, there's not a lot
to
of
survive,
options.
yes, because no one is showing them that you need to do this business and make it successful, or you need to do this business that conserves your natural resource. I mean, if you're harvesting the papyrus, maybe it will be gone some years. What are you going to harvest after some years?
So what do you go in and show them?
So what I do is my work focuses around key thematic areas that I promote as alternative sources of livelihood. So agribusiness is one of those. And in agribusiness, we are into issues of promoting urban farming technologies, or rather sustainable farming technologies, because in terms of farming, most people, destroy or clear the wetlands to farm into the wetlands.
Okay.
And that in itself is not a good thing, because you are destroying a habitat for wildlife, And then it's also not sustainable, because when floods come out, the crops get, destroyed. So you lose, because nature is paying back. That is not sustainable. So it's about promoting farming technologies that promote conservation, but also promote food security for the community, because most communities around the lake region do not see farming as, as a source of livelihood. My city is more of we're not producing crops because we have the lake. So we grew up knowing that fish
is everything.
Fish is everything. We have food. Why do we have to worry about raising other crops? So
in your community, then do you have the fruits and vegetables shipped in?
Yes,
then?
We get most of our vegetables, crops from the central part. And so the women go get them from the market and resell them to the households in the communities. Yeah. So it's something that we're trying to change, so that people have to learn and women have to take the lead to start growing crops locally in a small way, so that there's food security at the household level. Because imagine if they have to spend transport every day to go to the market to buy vegetables that they could raise.
Right.
At their backyard, because it's not even an issue of land, really, because it's a whole belief that you have to have land to cultivate. Yeah, but that is something that is changing. You can use gunny bags or buckets or something behind your backyard or on your balcony, and raise crops. Yeah.
So have you already started that program?
We have started that program. We have started with a demonstration plot, and so the idea is to provide a platform where people can come in and learn how it is done. because you can't go door to door doing this because of limited resources in terms of time and also, but people. So our office is located in an area where most public people access. It's in a beach area, so you're guaranteed to see visitors. Communities would come to get fish from the lake, so it's a place where they can access and come learn some of these technologies, and we expect that they can replicate the same at their household levels.
Right. Do you go out to the homes or try to educate them or see how they're doing in terms of that, or is it so new at this point that it's just are you just kind of getting started?
So we started, but so if someone has so people would come to the demonstration place and learn, but if someone has a difficulty or experiencing some challenges that that would need our attention, they would just walk over and go and sort it out, or try and link up with. So we work closely with the Ministry of Agriculture. Yes, extension officers would just come and give training.
Great. I was going to ask, you have people who are there who are knowledgeable about farming and can help them.
Yeah. So we reach them out for technical expertise if it's something that we can't handle.
Do you have other programs?
Yeah, we have other programs. So that was just one example under agribusiness. And so we're hoping also to do fish farming. We were supposed to pilot something with the Ministry of Fisheries, but it's because of our election period, so things are kind of halted right now. But fish farming is also an area we want to try and get into because of, I mentioned earlier that fish is currently declining in the lake and women are not allowed to go fishing in the lake, but we can establish fish farms and raise fish to sell,
So you can't fish in the lake, but you can still you can raise the fish.
We can raise the fish outside the lake.
Okay.
Yeah. And then even employ the fishermen to work on the fish farms and have women sell fish still.
What's the stigma around a woman fishing?
There are a lot of cultural beliefs and, taboos. One of those that I've heard is about, so how women have these menstruation cycles. So it's a whole belief that when a woman is on her menses and goes to the lake, that affects the fish catch, or maybe the boat can capsize. So there are all those beliefs around.
Okay. Yeah. So anything to keep the woman out.
Exactly.
Of the area.
Yeah.
Are there micro loans or micro programs that help these women get the fish to begin with, or how are they funding? Like, how are they going to buy the fish, and then are they going to a market and then reselling it?
Women mostly at the local level are organized into. Usually, they're organized into small savings groups. They're all into these social groups. They call them chamas in Swahili. So it's kind of a small savings group, and they save money and they loan among themselves. Yeah. So other than going to the banks, of course, we have the different microfinance institutions coming in. Yeah, but it's a common thing to have women organized into groups to get small amount of money through loans to start a business. Yeah. So then I am hoping that that's a way of getting money to go buy fish from the fishermen and resell.
Right.
Yeah, but maybe could have been given by their spouses to start a business, or some other sources maybe. So agribusiness is one of them.
Right.
And then we also doing ecotourism. Ecotourism as an alternative source of livelihood for the women. This is with more focus on the socio-cultural aspects in the community. Because the whole industry of tourism or ecotourism is dominated by men, because most people come to the Lake Victoria especially to, go for boat rides, and then women are not allowed to drive boats in the lake. So it's a whole male-dominated area. You'd find only male doing tour guiding. Women are not anywhere to interacting with visitors. So my agenda is to try and bring women into ecotourism, to start seeing it as a way of getting money, and it's not really labor intensive. So what we focus on is the first part of it is that women make handmade crafts from wetland products. So like using the papyrus plants and the invasive water hyacinth plant that invades the Lake Victoria usually, to make crafts that visitors can buy. And in that way, they can, start communicating or interacting with visitors. Another way is to train some of them who are able to talk to, provide guiding services. But really, in terms of the sociocultural aspects.
So you mean speaking English or
speaking in English, or even using their local language, and someone could translate that. So we're focusing on the cultural aspects that people don't get to learn, especially visitors, because mostly a visitor would just come for boat ride or to learn about the birds, and that would require a lot of, someone who is able to, talk about the birds in a more, a scientific language, which most women would lack self-confidence to do that. But we try and package the cultural aspects in terms of, a woman knows how to get the fish from the fisherman and prepares it, and finally on the table, that is more practical. It can be shown to a tourist, because it's more of experiential learning. A woman can tell a story in the local language, and someone can translate that, right? Women can dance, because most politicians use them when they're campaigning. They come on and dance and do all these ululations, and they're given handouts. So package that, they can do really good songs and dance. But if well packaged, it can be an experience that a tourist can learn. So that is what I'm working on, and I will be working on when I go back, to try and package that and get women see that as a source of income. Yes. And then another...
How big is the community that you're working with?
So I am more focused on working with the wetlands and island villages around Lake Victoria. We have a lot of beaches around the lake. But right now we are in one of the villages. It's called Dunga Beach in Kisumu. And it has about 300 people, 300,000 people in the community. Yeah. But then we have other adjacent wetland villages across. We go to them when we have resources. Yeah, because there's so many of such villages that we would want to reach out. Mm-hmm.
Do you? The reason I asked is that when I hear your story, I'm totally impressed, and it's amazing. And I think, like, if I were you, I would think, like, yes, here's an opportunity, and you can go try to help this situation. But also, you're like trying to move a mountain. You are trying to do something that's really big. Like I don't want to say you're trying to change a culture, but you are kind of trying to change a culture for the betterment of the lives of these women. And is that overwhelming to you? Do you ever just feel like you want to just throw up your hands and say, like, oh, I can't, this is crazy, this will never work? Like, what's your feeling about that?
Once you have started something as a leader, there is no need to give up. There is, because if you give up, then you are not meant for it, right? Yeah, winners never quit. So I believe that I'm a winner. And I believe that from my experience, having that experience of working around the Lake region, with different organizations and volunteering and interacting with the community, that kind of makes me more connected to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And understand their needs. And so if I was to quit, then ask myself, who is going to come to solve this problem?
So it's on your shoulders.
If it's me, yeah. So I see myself more connected, and then there's no reason why I should quit before getting things done.
How old are you?
I am 31.
31, okay.
Yes, I am 31. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I still have a long way to go, but it's a feeling that I really need to do something, because I have been with these people for over 5 years, and it doesn't make sense if I have to live without really making sure that I achieve my goal or finish what I started.
Are you seeing improvement? Like, are you seeing enough that gives you encouragement to keep going?
I see people more responsive right now. The women actually you see the whole community is more patriarchal, and the women that I work with are more of people who they grew up, or they found themselves knowing that their place would just be in the house, So there's that fear of, they just need to be in the house, they need to get permission from the men to get involved into certain things. But then I'm impressed, because when I start my program, I need the women to work with, so they would just show up, and that's encouraging. meaning that even the men are starting to learn that they need to support their women to do something.
Right, because it's
Yeah.
improving the family
Yes,
life
exactly.
and the community.
Yeah, exactly. So if there is not going to be fish tomorrow, and the woman is only looking up to the husband who is a fisherman, so how are they going to survive? Yeah, so it's a good thing that they are letting their women to get in. It's not really 100% easy, but because some of them would still have challenges. But I'm impressed because some of them are actually, showing up to
Right.
get involved. Yeah.
This is a kind of an awkward question, but is there a lot of? I'm sure that there's resistance from the men. Is there a big domestic problem, a drinking problem, anything like that in terms
sure.
of the men?
Yeah, women, the men drink a lot. Oh, of course.
Is it a local brew or is it beer?
It's a mix. It's a mix because so we have all these local bars and stuff. Of course, they get brews from outside, but there's also the local brews, and then fishermen, depending on if they get if they get most catch during the day, they could sell and make more money. Why not drink? Because it's a norm among the men, especially. Yeah.
And that's why, I've heard over the years, and this has been widely reported, that a lot of the microloans go to women because they're more responsible for it.
Yeah, they're more responsible because if you give a woman, money to do business with it, and she makes some profit or money from it, the next thing she's going to think, she has to get back home and make food for the family.
She has to take care of the family,
She has to take care of the family. The husband, fisherman, would be drinking beer from the money he made, of the day before he actually comes back to the house. So women are more responsible in terms of, taking care of the whole family. So if you actually invest in a woman, the whole family and the whole community
Is there
benefits.
a support system in terms of I guess beyond just the community, like you were describing the communities of the women, is there a support system for them, like counseling or shelters or anything like that? That might be so foreign.
Yeah, not really. It all depends on what problem they're solving. So usually support system is more into health. Organizations who have programs to support in terms of health, because I don't know if you know this, but around the Lake region, there's the whole issue of HIV and AIDS.
No, I didn't know.
Prevalence, it's high because of the whole idea of, it's something that is commonly known as sex for fish practices. So this is all closely tied to what I talked about earlier about fish is declining. And so if fish is declining and we have all these people who are usually women depending on fishermen to get fish to sell, then they just need to, the men have the small amount of fish and they need to sell it out, but there's all these women who need fish. So they just need to give them some sexual favors.
So they get the priority.
So yes, so you can get fish to sell. So as a woman, you are vulnerable at that point because you have no option.
Of course.
Yeah, you think about your children. They're going to stay angry because you didn't get fish to sell. Probably you're a widow who is raising a lot of orphans. So you only need, that's the only way.
Are they widows because of HIV?
Oh, yeah, sometimes. Yeah, as well. Yeah, in most cases. So HIV AIDS is always highly prevalent in the region. Yeah, so the programs in terms of counseling, community health workers, always trying to, give them medicine or do some counseling, education as well.
Well, you're up against a lot.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So there is no really other such, social support systems other than the women themselves having the chamas that I talked about, the savings group. Yeah, which is smart in a way because it's something that men never don't do that much usually. Like men would gather when they're drinking or something. Women would come together for a cause.
To help each other.
To help each other in terms of saving and everything.
Where did you get your confidence or your kind of philosophy? What's your background in terms of how you grew up?
So I think what I do is informed by how I grew up, really, because I grew up in an informal settlement in Kisumu, And
what does that mean in informal
it's like a slum area.
Okay.
Yes. And so that slum area was known for, most people also sold fish as a source of income. It was not really close to the lake, but it's one of those slums that it was actually it's close to those fish industries. So most people would get fish from the fish industries and sell. And my mom was one of those people who used to get fish and sell. So for the most part of how I grew up, so that's how I went to school, because my mom used to, get fish and sell. And I went to school that way. And I am the firstborn in my family. So I could help.
How many siblings do you have?
We have 5.
Okay,
We're
5 total.
Yes, and I am the eldest. So I could help my mom in her business. So it is just being, I think I loved business because I grew up doing it. Yeah. And so,
but you also, of course, you're informed with like that. Your background brings you to this point.
Exactly. So that's the whole story. Because I get all this interest working in my mom's fish business, and that's how I go to school. And then after school, I get to join a voluntary organization, environmental organization, and start working on all these things, around the lake, and getting involved. Even my whole ecotourism story, I did a bit of tour guiding activities within this organization. I remember I could go out with visitors to do bird watching and stuff like that. So, and in most cases, I found myself to be the only lady. Yes. So, and then I went to school to college by my own savings.
You paid,
Yeah, so I am more self-made.
So let's go back to your to grade school, because, and I actually had written a note down. I was wondering, because you mentioned something about the girls dropping out of school. Typically, when does a girl drop out of school?
Oh, usually in primary school. Yeah.
So she'll get to what, 4th, 5th grade, or a little bit 8th grade?
About 6, 7, from 6, 7 onwards. That's mostly the and it depends on where you are. So in most fishing villages, usually girls go up to 6th grade, and they never make it up, because then they go into early marriages with the fishermen.
Why didn't you?
I didn't, because I think, so in my high school, all my life I went to missionary schools, so there was all those, they taught us all these things about, I think how they taught us as a school was, they tie it to the Christianity bit
of course,
it,
yeah.
and so that sort of molds you. Yeah, so
you think that there was maybe a little bit more pressure?
I think so.
To succeed,
exactly,
and so in a good way.
In a good way, and especially as the firstborn. Yeah, my parents were really strict on me a little bit. Yes, so that kind of molded me, and I finished. And then went to high school. I was lucky to be in a boarding school. So my mom was such a hard worker. So she managed to put me in boarding school, which was also a missionary school. So I didn't got spoiled that much outside school. So then I made it to the end, and then decided to volunteer, and then get involved in. So I didn't, because the main thing is, if you don't get involved, if you just stay idle after high school, then chances are high that you may, just get into other bad stuff. So I tried to get busy.
So you were smart enough, and you kind of knew, you had enough ambition
exactly,
that you kind of knew what you needed to do.
Yes. Yeah. And then I went to...
Did your siblings go on to higher education, or did they complete school?
They completed through primary and high school.
Okay.
Yes, they've completed.
Great.
Yeah. So then I went to I started with a diploma, because I couldn't pay. Well, I passed, but I couldn't join the university because my parents couldn't. I only had the option of volunteering, getting myself busy, like I mentioned, and save some money and go do my diploma. So my diploma was in business management, and then I wanted to go higher and higher.
And you went to, where did you go to school?
My diploma, I started with Kenya Institute of Management, that's in Kisumu, and then I did my degree University of Nairobi. Yeah, and currently I'm doing my master's.
Oh, good for
there.
you.
Yeah, but still on the business management, yeah, section. Yeah, so it's business. So that's what inspires me, using the business, just seeing my mom working so hard to take me to school, and just seeing, as a woman also depending on fish, because right now there's no fish. There's no much activity going on that much as I used to see those days. So that means that fish is disappearing. So then how do I use my business skills to help these women who are in the same situation as my mom? Because I know they also have kids that are going to school. They are really working hard to get their kids on school. Yeah.
How is it viewed when you go back? Well, not even when you go back, but even as you've been working on this, whether you go back having spent 12 weeks here or just working with them in general, how is that viewed by the women? Like, are they okay with that? Like, kind of not being told what to do, but like being shown a different path. Are they resistant to it themselves? They're not.
They're not. They actually really, they expect so much from you, actually. They expect that you are bringing in...
Because you have an education.
Yes, you bringing in some new knowledge to learn from. Oh, yeah.
Would it be the same if that was me? Like a foreigner coming in? Or do you have a different level of respect because they say, you know us and you know our culture?
Yeah. So they, for me, they will find it easier to relate with me. Yeah, of course, but there's that respect as well. Like, you've traveled, you're bringing something new. So it will be more of the same thing. Yeah, because we're all coming from a foreign country, both of us. So it's that respect, but they also view you as bringing in all these new things that you need to show them how to do it and learn from.
So they're open to it.
They're open to it.
They see new ways.
Yeah, they're open to it.
And you're an inspiration to them because they see what's possible.
Yeah, because that's the thing. You need to relate to the people, I find myself... for me, what drives me is that I can be able to relate to the women. I am a woman, and I can easily relate to their struggles. I know my mom used to do this. Yes, I am a woman. I have children. They have children. I see the kind of environment they are working on, so I really understand their struggles, and so that's what keeps them, going. Yeah.
So you mentioned you have children. Before we started recording, you said you have 2 children.
Yes, I do.
Girl and boy?
A girl and a boy, yeah.
Okay. And how old are they?
I have a 10-year-old and almost 3 years old.
So 10-year-old and 3-year-old. So you've been away from them for 12 weeks now.
Yes.
And you're just probably going crazy.
Oh, yeah, I try to balance. Balance, yeah.
Do you keep in touch with them with Skype?
I do WhatsApp. We use WhatsApp a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. And sometimes connection is a problem, but we get around.
It's the connection problem is on that end.
On that end, on that end.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you were here for a year, a few years ago, that means your daughter or your son,
my son
was back in Kenya.
Yes.
And he was staying with family there?
He was staying with my mom. And even now they're staying with my mom.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that, that is so unusual for us here in the U.S. It wouldn't be looked upon favorably. And I have so much respect for it because you've got community there that's helping you out.
Yeah, true.
I think it's amazing. Is it a common thing, or it's a very accepted thing in Kenya?
Well, I would say it's not so common. People would have the same feeling, but I guess it's different for people very few people like me who have had the chance of, have been exposed or have had a chance to get some of these opportunities.
Okay, so it's recognized as an extraordinary opportunity that you have.
Yes, that you have. But still, people would see it as, it's not right, just like the same feeling you guys have. But then, as a leader, as a woman leader who, you have this opportunity and you know what it means for you, you don't make excuses. You just don't have time to make excuses, because then if you don't do it, who is going to do it? So sometimes you just stop making excuses as someone who's been called as a leader. You just need to find a way of, doing it and manage yourself.
Where do you think your leadership or your desire to be a leader came from?
Well, I guess because as a firstborn, naturally, it's within me. Firstborns are expected to do a lot, especially if you come, I think in most cases and in most African countries, people look up to firstborns a lot. And so it sort of drives you to always want to do something. Yeah. And then also... Do
you think you treat your son and your daughter a little differently because the son is the firstborn.
Yes.
Is that right?
Mhm.
Do you have higher expectations for him?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. He has to be, because I mean, I expect a lot from him to be as a role model to the younger one. So yeah, I would try to push him always, all the time.
Yeah.
To do certain things right, because the younger one would learn from you. Yeah.
But your daughter has a lot to live up to with a mom like you.
Exactly. Yeah, I got to teach her to become one of those leaders as well.
Absolutely.
Yes.
There's no doubt.
Yeah, there's no
that
doubt.
she will. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
great.
yeah. So I mentioned only 2 areas that I worked in. I was just about to mention the other areas.
Oh,
So
yes,
there's-
please.
Yes. So there's also green energy that we do, green energy enterprises. This was also as a result of just observing how the communities depend on the traditional energy sources for lighting and cooking. So, and it's mostly it used to be women to, try and make some money from selling fish and buy kerosene to light their homes, or rather get some firewood or charcoal to burn up to cook. And so the consequences is that there's all this indoor air pollution, which is not good for the women's health. And probably they have young kids, newborns. And then we had a lot of cases of just houses getting up on fire because someone was using a tin lamp. And in most cases, they are kids who probably had to stay late doing assignments from school, and they would fall asleep, and the lamp would fall over, and the whole house up on fire. So one of our projects is it's called Smokeless Homes Initiative, and that's about enabling the rural households, or these households, access clean energy that is in a more affordable way. And of course, they are safe. So solar lamps and improved cook stoves that the houses can use. Yeah, so how we do it is, I mentioned we have a lot of these women groups in the community. So we work with the women groups, and we give them lamps and teach them how to use the lamps to do business. So our model is called rent to own model, and they rent out the lamps to households, and we make sure that the price is lower than kerosene so that it discourages people from buying kerosene every day. So they rent out the lamps to households daily.
And these are solar? I'm sorry.
Solar
they're
lamps.
all solar.
They're
okay.
all solar lamps. Yes, because we have a lot of sun in Kisumu. We have a lot of sun.
Wouldn't work here.
Yeah, I know. But the lamps are made in a way that they can also charge during cloudy seasons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who manufactures the
We
lamps?
buy from Sunkin. Sunkin is mostly known. It's one of the Lighting Up African recommended lamps.
Okay.
Yeah, so Sunkin is the best. So they rent out that to households, and people can now own clean energy, sources for lighting. Yeah, as well as using improved cook stoves, because then they only use a little amount of firewood or charcoal and make, so they save money actually, because women or rather households would spend up to 50% of their income. And these are people who probably
just on their source of
on kerosene or fuel wood to cook, and probably you made $1 as a profit. So you're talking about people who make between $1 and $3 a day, and then you end up spending 50% of it daily. Yes. So our project is about enabling these households access cleaner sources of energy, but also to help them have some disposable income, especially for the women, so that when they go into their savings group, they can actually have something to save. Yes.
So explain this to me, because I'm not quite following it. So if they're spending their money on the kerosene
to put into the tin lamps to light up,
just for having light in their home.
in their homes.
Okay, and
Yes.
then when they're making the $1 to $3 a day, what are they doing to make the $1 to $3 a day?
So it's either the women are selling fish, remember, because that's the only business that
Right.
they're doing. So they have to get fish and sell it to people.
Okay.
Which is mostly the community, actually.
I see. So
Yes.
I was making a more direct connection between what they were doing in their homes
Oh,
with the
okay.
lighting.
Oh, okay.
But you just mean in general,
In
they're
general.
they're going out and making a small amount of
Yes.
money. They're coming home at night
At
for the
night,
light,
yes.
and they're spending half
and they're
of
spending
what
money,
I
half of what
understand.
they
Okay.
made,
Okay.
on energy.
I just
And
wanted
then
to-
that is just energy. They've not bought food. They haven't bought other stuff. It's a cycle of not having any disposable income.
You might as well just stay at home.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and you don't even know when your husband is going to come back because he's probably getting drunk somewhere. But you need to make sure that there's light for your kids to do homework and eat, and you cook as well.
I see. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So it's about getting households have clean energy sources that are smokeless. That's why we call it smokeless. But also have the women have disposable income.
And this is part of your program also?
This is
the
part of our
smokeless
program,
homes,
yes.
yeah.
It's under our focus area on green energy enterprises. Yeah. So that's been successful in some villages, and we still need to get to more other villages as well. Then lastly, we have, so what did I talk about? So we have health and nutrition as well. We into, like I mentioned, we have all these problems of HIV/AIDS prevalence. So we try to give sexual health preventive education to the people that we work with. It's more of education, preventive, but we try to link up with other partners who can come in terms of curative services as well. Yeah, and then
is it more? Is it educational, or is it also providing condoms to people?
It is more of educational. So then, if we had a partner who wants to give out condoms, why not partner? Because that's the whole approach. Yeah. So right now it's more preventive, but we are also into the women started working on issues of menstruation. So making reusable sanitary towels, because that's also an issue. Most of the girls could not go to school because during menstruation they have
because they had nothing.
Yes, and they can't buy it, they can't afford it. So we also into making reusable sanitary towels for the girls to stay in school. So one of the most interesting things, and maybe with the help of some of the partners that I met during my fellowship program, is to try and use the water hyacinth weed that is in Lake Victoria to make reusable or disposable, rather, a disposable sanitary towel, because we tried the reusables, but people, the other challenges into it for people not using it, because there's a whole, you have to wash it. Then the water is dirty. If you want to get a clean water, you need to buy it. So it's still complicated. You need soap, so it's finding something that would make people, use it easily. So yeah, right now I'll be more into looking up to, getting the technical expertise to work on getting, a sanitary towel made of water hyacinth. Yeah. So really looking forward to it. And then lastly, we're into ICT for women development. So that's information, communication, and technology. These are women who don't interact that much with computers. Yeah. So getting even closer to a computer itself they're more afraid to eat. But still, we recognize that the fact that they are not educated or they don't have that education it should not be a limitation for them not to learn computers. We got a few computers, and then we decided that we're going to teach these women how to use computers, the basic skills for communication and networking, for them to learn how to manage or make some of these enterprises successful.
Do you have a center or a location where they can
Yes, we have a center where we have the computers and the women would just come. We have a program where they come in and learn, and we teach them in our local language, because we know they don't speak English, and most of the computer languages is in, it's in English, but because we have gone through, we've been privileged to go through learning computers, we can do it in our local language because we understand them. So the whole idea is to, for instance, if one of our enterprises is ecotourism, and that means that we're trying to get these women connected to people, they're building their network, they're going to interact. So that means we need to start getting them onto using, say, things like Facebook, social media, in terms of, broadening.
Just getting them used to it.
Yes, because I think people own mobile phones, and Kenya is no exception. Everyone almost owns a mobile phone. The women own mobile phones because they use them for mobile banking and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So if they're able to use the computers, why not use,
Yeah.
why not use a computer, or even learn how to use a computer and try and use Facebook on their phone? Yes. And it's our hope that they can be able to take it up. I mean, when they start selling their crafts or talking to the visitors through ecotourism as an enterprise, they broaden. So it's not just having friends within the community, but,
broad.
having, helping them to become global citizens in one way or the other, because we are successful because of us. I am where I am right now because I was able to talk to people or get connected to one or two people. Yes, and we should not limit them because they didn't go to school or something.
Right.
Yes, yeah.
That's a great philosophy.
Yes, exactly.
Are there other programs?
Yeah, that's it. But we also are looking into leadership development because we realize that most of the women are not into, leadership positions, be it local. I mean, I would talk more locally where I work because it's more of a patriarchal society. And so, of course, there's so many, all these institutions locally. For instance, around the lake, we have the beach management units who take care of all the fishing villages around the lake, having been given the powers by the Ministry of Fisheries. But then you find women in some of those committees. But they would just be there because of this whole gender thing. We need representations. But then women don't make decisions that much. So, and it's because of maybe their ego is still very low. They feel intimidated. They lack self-confidence. They lack negotiation skills. So it's about, training these women to step up, to become leaders in their own small ways, in whatever capacities they've been placed in. These are women who are just they're always relegated to positions like secretary,
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't any different years ago here.
Yeah.
It was the same thing. So, I mean, it's a long time ago, 40, 50 years ago, and we still deal with our own issues here.
Yeah, true.
But I think we can relate to that.
Yes.
That it was always that, women were secretaries, for
exactly.
a long time. That was their position.
Yeah. So most of the problems that face women locally where I work with, I would feel like it's more of building their, skills to become leaders, to lead. Because if they are not able to speak about some of these problems, for instance, I mentioned about the sex for fish, they are suffering. They're suffering because of the sex for fish thing, but it's because no one is talking about it. Yeah, and if they were more, empowered, given skills to talk about it, they would advocate for it and find ways of stopping it.
Do you go back and try to talk about it?
It needs a lot of people who have share the same, same feelings. Yeah, and in most cases, you can't do it alone. It's going back and find people who share the same sentiment and find a way of doing it together.
Is there anything that we missed that you want to bring up? You're doing amazing work there. Like
Thank you.
I'm totally impressed because I know that it's got to be really difficult to, like I said, it's like you're pushing a mountain, just like trying to make a really big change. And now thank you for your background information because I understand your motivation behind it a lot better. I think there are so many of us who can learn from that. Just in terms of finding our own passion and finding our own why and our own motivation to make even small changes and being an inspiration or being motivational, other people might look at us and be motivated, or look at you and be motivated to make a change.
You asked about my future plans.
Yes, of course. Right. So
after the fellowship, right? Yeah. So the fellowship has invested in you. And you have had a chance to meet great people, amazing people. And so we expected to go back and do something and move mountains still. So we have all these plans that we need to execute. So you have to develop a leadership development plan that they will be tracking like 6 months.
As part of this program.
As part of this program, after 6 months or 1 year or even after 2 years. And then you are just supposed, you have your own dream there and the specific objectives that you're going to work on to try and achieve. And so I am just going to go back, use the networks that I developed here and try and get resources to work towards the objectives that I outlined on my...
So you're looking for funding?
I am
right?
looking for resources, yes, because I have a long list of the things that I want to do. I mean, I can't just say that I'm going back home and... Now that I'm done with the fellowship, that's it. Because then I would have just wasted a lot of all this investment. But it would be more fulfilling for me to go back and use the resources. Of course, networks are resources, people that you met, all this knowledge that I learned. How do I bring them together and make sure that some of those things I want to do, come to effect. For instance, I see a region where, women are really self-sufficient. That's my dream, because I said most women are depending on, fish from the lake. My city is depending on getting food from other counties, other counties within the country. What if we have problems? So say like right now we have a problem with our election processes, and then violence erupts. So that means we're not going to get tomatoes or somewhat,
So let's talk about that for a second. When were the elections?
We had the elections in August.
So
8th.
Relatively recently, because we're recording
Yes.
a little after the middle of the month in September. And so there's still issues going on with that because results haven't been finalized?
Yes,
or?
we had elections and then it was nullified. Elections were, yes.
Across the board?
It was nullified because the Supreme Court made a ruling that the elections were null and void, meaning that they felt like there was no election done because the election processes or rules were not followed as stipulated in the Constitution.
Oh, I wish we could bring your Supreme Court here.
I know. I mean, so that was very historic, actually, because for the first time, an African court invalidated a presidential election.
Oh, really?
That was very historic for Kenya.
Okay, I'm sorry that I haven't been up on that.
Oh, really? You should look it up.
I will. I didn't realize that.
We made history, at least, for the first time.
Honestly, I'll just tell you, I don't pay attention to the news these days because of our political situation.
Oh, okay.
So because it's too depressing for me, so I don't pay attention. So that's why I'm kind of off the grid in terms of that information.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah,
but,
sure. But now I'm telling you.
Now I'll go Google. I will go Google.
Now you can Google it.
Kenyan elections.
So, it was invalidated, and people, of course, before the Supreme Court made a ruling, the Electoral Commission made an announcement that the current president was re-elected, and people did not agree to it because people felt that it was rigged. Yeah. So, and then what you expect is violences erupt all over.
Sure.
And my city, Kisumu, is known for, in terms of violence, they would always be on the front row.
Yeah.
So,
they're passionate.
Yes, violence erupts in Kisumu, and so they block all the highways and stuff. So major highways, if blocked, then that means people cannot get goods from other cities. So then if that is to go for like months, then that means we don't have enough to survive as a county. Yeah.
And so that's what's going on right now.
Right now it's still, so we're going for re-elections again.
Okay.
Yeah.
When are those?
We're going for re-election next month, actually.
Okay.
So I'm glad to go back and vote, actually.
Yeah, good.
It's good for me, but I'm just praying for peace, because if there is no peace, then everyone suffers.
Yeah, they do.
And especially women, So imagine if women are the people getting tomatoes and potatoes and vegetables to sell, and then we have all this, chaos going on. So that means they can't get all these things, get into the city for them to buy and resell. So they suffer a lot, and their children suffers. So yeah, peace and economic livelihoods connected. Yeah, and women suffer. So we just pray and appeal to my Kenyan, the people in charge, just to ensure that we have peace prevailing, because if that goes wrong, then people, especially women and children, suffer more.
I'm being cognizant of the time, because I think you probably have a evening ahead of you.
Yes, sure, yeah.
Don't you?
Yeah.
Let me ask you, I know that, and we don't have to go through all of them. You sent me some great links where people can find you.
Yeah,
and
sure.
There's some Facebook pages that you have and some information about you. Are you on social media at all?
I
Do
am.
you connect with people? Are you
I am on Facebook. Carol,
Okay.
My name's Carol Acheng Odera, and I am on Twitter at Carol Odera. I'm on Instagram. I think I'm all over.
Okay, great. So I'll make
Yes.
sure that I connect with you on
sure.
all of those, and I'll
Yeah.
add those to the show notes
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah.
So your website and all that information.
Yes.
We'll get people set
Yeah.
up on your
Yeah,
Facebook
sure.
pages. And then just one last question for you. This is the Be Bold podcast. So tell me what it means to you to be bold.
Being bold is knowing what you want, knowing what you really want and saying it. Because if you don't ask for it, who is going to ask it for you? Yeah, I think as women, culturally, we are not taught to be, to be bold. Yeah, we always just told, you're just supposed to be in the kitchen. That's your place, Being bold is saying what you want, and that's why in most places of the African countries, I mean, they're all issues of girl child education campaigns. People are not letting girls to go to school because they're not being bold to ask for what they should ask for. So it is. Yeah, it is asking for what you want. Knowing, first of all, you have to know what you want and ask for it. Because if you don't do that, then no one will give it to you. Yeah.
As an outsider coming to the U.S., do you think that women here are bold?
The women in the U.S., some of them do.
So you don't see it across the board that, oh, yes, American women are all bold.
Yeah, no.
You see the difference.
I see the difference. Okay. Yeah, I see the difference. It also depends on the environment that you've been, all the environments that you've gone through. I tend to feel that people who have educated or more educated are more bolder than those who are not. Yeah, so it's all different.
Right.
Yeah. That's why everyone needs to be or if you're not even educated, at least you have some knowledge about something, and so that helps you know what you want and you become bold about it.
Yeah. Anything else you'd like to add?
Thank you for having me in the show.
Oh, I know. Well, thank you so much. Let me ask you one quick thing.
Yeah.
When I offered you something warm to drink, or I offered you something to drink, you said, "Of course, I'm from Kenya.
Yes.
I need tea."
Yeah.
Tell me what your favorite tea is.
Kericho tea.
It is.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
All our tea come from Kericho.
Oh, it does.
And every time is tea time in Kenya.
Okay.
All just like you guys do coffee every time.
Right. And so you drink caffeine. You're just drinking tea.
I just do tea all the time.
I have to get some of the Kericho Gold because I discovered it is on Amazon. So
oh, really?
I'm gonna try that.
Well, next time you come to Tanzania, stop by. Come over to Kenya.
I know.
Or we can send some to Tanzania.
I should do that, huh? I'll be there in early 2019.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll just need to make that little trip and see what you folks are all about.
Oh yeah, you should come over.
I will.
You're welcome.
Okay, good. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
Thanks so much for having me.
Best of luck to you.
Yeah, thanks so much.
That conversation really humbled me. She's trying to make such a huge change within her culture, and I don't know how she stays so motivated. It's got to be really difficult. Hopefully I'll get to visit and see exactly what she's doing. A reminder that if you like what you hear, please subscribe to the podcast in Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or Google Play and leave a review. Those reviews really do help the podcast get more exposure and will ultimately help us grow our Be Bold community. I bet you know a few people in your world who would also enjoy today's episode and this podcast in general, so please do share. Podcasts are a new thing for some people, so if you've got a friend who doesn't know how to download them, take a moment to give them a lesson. You can find out more about me by visiting wanderlustandlipstick.com, and you'll now find the podcasts on BeBoldPodcast.com, and you can find all the show notes there as well. While I don't currently have a tour to Kenya, I will be leading a tour to Mount Kilimanjaro, a safari in Tanzania, and gorilla trekking in Rwanda in early 2019. Those tours just got announced, and they're about half full at this point. And that's through my company, Wander Tours. And you can check out those tours, as well as other destinations both in the U.S. as well as abroad at wandertours.com. Right now we have space available on those Africa trips, as well as New Orleans and Santa Fe culinary tours, and also a trip to Papua New Guinea next year. If you'd like to connect with me, you can friend me on Facebook, and I'm WanderGal on Instagram. Sign up for my newsletter on the Wanderlust and Lipstick site, and you'll receive a series of tips for making your travels safer. I've also started sending out Wander List, a monthly roundup of my favorite gear, music, podcast episodes, and other items that I've discovered and want to share. You generally won't find those on my social media channel, so that newsletter is a special place for that information. If you know of any high-performing, adventurous, philanthropic women whom you think might be a good guest, shoot me a note or leave a comment. And finally, the ladies can join us on our Be Bold Facebook group. That's where you'll find our growing community. It's where we share goals, talk about our setbacks, and where you can find words of encouragement and inspiration from others. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Be Bold podcast. Until next time, be bold.